My biggest fear would be when the first comes and I don't get the rent.
I found that my tenant had dumped concrete down my toilet. Can you believe Fair Housing fined me $5,000 for that?
How do you onboard your tenants? What do you do?
I don't even know if I do it right.
If you're a landlord, don't just rent, rent perfect. The Rent Perfect podcast with property expert and private investigator, David Pickron.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Rent Perfect podcast. I have Don Darnell here with me. Don, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks, David.
Don is with U.S. Collections West, and what an important time to have a relationship with the collection company. We're going to talk a little bit today about, this CARES Act and then the CDC eviction moratorium, and we have a lot of clients out there and a lot of people calling us saying, hey, how in the world can we battle this? I've got someone who's living in my property for 4 or 5 months, might owe me $12,000, and they're just sitting there kind of just looking at me smirking, and there's nothing I can do to evict them. And so we are getting out of the box today with Don, who owns a collection company. Don, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, David. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited that you're here. Like I said, when they make a move, we got to make a move, right?
Absolutely.
And so, this new CDC, just to get right into it, it talks about, you're unable to pursue an eviction. And so we don't want to really go down the road of an eviction. We call it a special detainer, forcible detainer out here in Arizona. You might call it something else in your state. So we've got to find a way to still collect the money, but not pursue it down the road of an eviction way. And Don, you have the perfect program for us that you've put together, and we're really excited to hear about it because you're really, as we talk today, you're really going after the money, not after the eviction. And the CDC says, hey, listen, these guys still owe the money. They're still responsible for the money. So this is a channel that we can go down. So if you have tenants in your property right now not paying you rent, you need to really pay attention to what we're going to talk about today. So Don, tell us what exactly, a lot of people think you can't pursue collections unless, people are gone, but can you pursue collections while your tenants are still in the property?
There's no reason, there's no law that says we can't. So we're coming up with a new program. While your tenant's still in the property, you can still turn the account over to us to collections, and we'll send them notifications and report it to the credit after the required amount of time. And then every month if they don't pay, we update the file. We report the balance that's being updated. So every month we keep updating the balance of what they owe. Every month it gets reported to the credit bureau, the amounts being adjusted. And then once they're finally out of the property, you give us a final accounting and we proceed against it with post-judgment proceedings, depending if you have a judgment or with our own litigation. So the key is let them know that it's not going to stop just because they're not paying rent. You're not unempowered. You are empowered, and we can help you recover funds, and also it helps the future landlords. Future landlords, when they finally get out, when this moratorium stops and evictions do happen, it's going to help the next landlord know that, hey, this is on my credit, this is on this guy's credit. Do I want to rent to him again? Of course you don't. And without us reporting to the credit bureau, you're not going to know because it's not showing up on people's credit bureaus as evictions.
Oh, perfect. I mean, there's so many things I want to break down in there. I mean, that was a great summary, and I love that. But let's just dig into, evictions. Now, when we have filed our evictions in the last year since last July, a lot of our clients out there don't realize those aren't being reported on credit anymore. Evictions, liens, and judgments are gone off of credit, right?
The law changed last year.
It did. So now the only way you can put any kind of rental collection on someone's credit bureau and lower their score is by turning over your collection to a collection agency who then has the power to update to the collection agency every 30 days. Do you know why all of that happened that way?
The reasoning is just becoming more liberal rules with the credit reporting, and the government wants people to be more credit worthy. So they want more accuracy. So the laws change. It's like anything, laws are always evolving. So as they evolve, we have to evolve, and that's what we've been doing.
So I love that. So I do agree. I think that people want people's credits score to go up. When their credit scores go up, they get housing, they get cars, they get homes, they get everything. One other reason that they did that too, Don, as you probably know, is when an eviction goes through the court, there's no date of birth and there's no judgment. Or I'm sorry, there's no date of birth, no social security number on those. So when you evict a John Smith, the credit bureau has no way of telling which John Smith's file to put that on, right? And so there's a bunch of parameters that are in the courts that limit them. But when they have a collection agency report, you're getting your information right from the client who has the date of birth, who has the social security. You're putting it on the correct file for the credit bureaus. And so they trust you way more than they trust themselves gathering the data out of the court. That's why they quit putting it on there. There are those two reasons. So we need to make sure that we understand how do we get these judgments or this amount owed onto the credit bureau. And Don, you're the man. Now, I know we're in Arizona right now, but you're licensed nationwide. I mean, we can roll this out as a nationwide program, correct?
Absolutely.
I love that. And tell us, you gave us a summary right now, but right now, how do we set up an account with you, and how do we start doing business with you?
Well, if you contact our marketing department, we'll discuss the parameters of the collection, the fees, how we do it. Pretty much everything's done by email, so whenever you place an account or update records or balances, everything's done by email. We use Yardi. If you're familiar with Yardi, if you're already a user of Yardi, you just place your accounts with us via your system, goes directly to our system. It's seamless and very simple. That's mostly for multi-housing properties, but it's a pretty simple process.
Do I need to own a bunch of properties or be a multifamily in order to do business with you?
We handle individual clients, and we represent properties that have thousands of units.
Okay, so if I have a couple of property managers here that own 1, 2, 3 units, but they have a sizable amount of money owed to them, that you have no problem taking that account?
No, absolutely not.
Now, is that going to cost them any money up front setting up an account with you?
No, we don't have. It's all contingent.
Okay, so you're going to keep the percentage of the funds that are collected, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about, we talked a little bit about having a program that was a little cheaper than most collection agencies just to get the information on the credit bureaus, and then tell me how then that those fees increase as you start going into civil litigation.
So with this program that we're rolling out, when the tenants are still in the property and you turn over accounts saying, okay, he owes 1 month's rent, we'll send letters and notices. We'll also put it on his credit, and if they pay, or they pay you or pay us, we'll charge 20%, which is half of our normal fee. And we'll continue to update the balance. You continue to update the balance to us, and the rate still will be at 20% until they actually vacate the unit. Once they actually vacate the unit, you give us an accounting of what the final balance is, and then we'll start making additional contacts, outgoing calls, doing other skip tracing procedures, trying to track down where they went to, where their new employers are, and the rate will increase to our normal rate, which is 40%. If we wind up garnishing or employing a lawyer to do post-judgment proceedings, the rate will increase to 50%. But before that happens, we'll send you notice asking for your permission, and you have to sign off on an assignment agreement and forward it to us. So it's not like it just automatically happens. You have to give us permission before we start taking post-judgment proceedings or doing civil litigation.
Okay. And, you just don't go file on anybody. You just don't garnish anybody. You make sure that you have a really, really good chance of collecting once you start going down that road. You have a great kind of a pre-screening process, correct?
We use a lot of different tools. We use the Work Number, which is a nationwide employer search. We do, it's a lot of volume. It really is a lot of volume. And because percentages, so, we check the credit bureaus. We will use the Work Number. We have other sources also that we use. So
love it. Don, when we talk about collection agencies, we often think of how am I going to get my money down the road. But I want to tell you, as a landlord right now who's kind of defenseless with this law, I love to know that my tenant sitting in the property, it's going to have something on their credit. They're going to get a few letters from you. And they don't think that I'm just rolling over as the landlord, that I am still, using the tools that I can use to collect from them. And it all of a sudden makes them say, hey, my landlord is serious, and I might want to just get this paid, and I might want to keep up on my rent, because the fallacy that I don't have to pay rent and I'm just going to get away with this all in many, many months down the road disappears. Because a lot of people think, hey, CDC says I don't have to pay rent. I'm not even viable for the rent, which they are. And they're just sitting in there thinking, hey, I can buy a TV this month. I can spend my money in other places. I don't have to pay rent. So I love having you in this program because it lets the tenants, it really educates them like, guys, you still owe the piper. We're just kicking the can down the road. And I want to tell all of our clients out there listening to this, today is September 17th. This CDC moratorium is going to end December 31st as far as the way it's in the law now. But I want to tell you, we need to plan for this thing to be continued until the summertime. I don't think that the CDC is going to want to evict everybody in the middle of winter. We're in Arizona. Winter's wonderful in Arizona, but in most of the northern country, when it's 20 below, I just see the news articles already, the media piping up this thing about how we're going to evict all these people, in the dead of winter, and they're going to be homeless on the freezing streets. And so I really, as you listen to this podcast today, I don't want you to think this is ending December 31st. I want you to start planning as if this is going to be here for 6 months to even a year. And if it does disappear, fantastic. Let's go back to the way we're doing it. If it doesn't, we'll be prepared to battle this for the long haul. So
everything's evolving. Who knew what was going to happen? I mean, last March, it was like, oh, things are fine. And then, they keep rolling out new changes, new laws, new procedures.
I look at our last 10 podcasts, and I'm like, okay, 8 podcasts ago does irrelevant now. 6 podcasts ago, irrelevant now. You're right. Things are changing so fast. We can only talk about what we know today. And we very much could be back in the seat talking about new stuff next week that's completely changed. And so, Don, why don't you give us our telephone number so our clients can give you a call and get more information on your program?
Our direct number is 602-995-3494, and you can ask for myself, Donald Darnell, or you can ask also for Deborah Swan, our marketing manager.
Guys, I've been working with Don for 20 plus years. Phenomenal company. I recommend them completely and totally trust them. I use them. And I've just never been let down. Now, I'm not going to say that Don's team can collect on every single person out there. That's not possible. But if there is an opportunity to collect, I know they will collect for you. And the reality is the 20% or the 40% or the 50% down the road is way better than 0%. And remember, when we put that on their credit bureau, that's going to stick with them for 7 years. And there's a chance 5 years down the road, someone could call and say, hey, I'm buying a house. I need to clear up this collection account. And we could get our money 5 years down the road, which would be just a complete bonus for us investors because we just have that hanging out, and we always don't know when it will be collected. But I know Don will get them if he can get them, and I really appreciate you putting together a program for us that we could send to you and really give us empower, is the word you used earlier, empower us landlords to do that. Don, thanks for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate it. Thanks for another episode of the Rent Perfect podcast. Until next time, continue to rent perfect.